You can still just retreat with the Dradagon, go up with the Flapple. So our Colorless player smartly grabbing that Iona with that versatility, going to be able to put their opponent down to just one card in hand. Probably their best path to victory here. They need to make sure that they can't get that Flapple back in the active. And today I've got another great match for you. This is going to be another Dragon deck versus Colorless. But this isn't your typical Colorless deck. This one's going to be a little bit more interesting. We've got a spread Colorless deck. So it's running that Iron, I believe Jugulis is what it's called. I don't remember what it's called. That like three-headed Hydra that's the Hydradagon. Got Spinda and lots of other Pokemon. So it'll be a really fun deck to be able to see if our Colorless player can pull it off. Probably not the strongest version of Colorless, but always fun to see something a little bit different. Game is getting underway. We've got Colorless going first, Bidoof in the active, versus our Dragon player's Dratini. Colorless player's strategy here is going to be able to get some of its draw supports down. It still runs things like that Squovent and that Bibarrel. Pretty much always going to run that in Colorless. Those are just too good not to. But some of the interesting attackers in here are things like Spinda, which can do 10 damage to all of your opponent's Pokemon and then confuses the active as well. You've got things like the Bunnelby that can do multiple attacks in a turn if it gets a KO. Then, of course, that Iron Jungulus that can do 50 damage to 3 targets that already have damage counters on them. So usually you'll do something like set things up with Spinda and then eventually start getting down your other Pokemon and spreading damage around. There's also a Rufflet that can attack for free against targets that already have damage counters on them. So we'll probably see that come into play. Starting off with Spinda though, again it's got that dizzying spin ability, 10 damage to all of your opponent's Pokemon, and then the active is confused. Great way to not only potentially stall your opponent or make them use resources on retreating and switching out, or just risk having to go through that confusion. U-turn board going down on Bidoof and an energy on Spinda. Spinda's attack does only cost 1 energy. I mean, honestly, for 90 HP, it's not a bad Pokemon. 10 damage can start adding up over time. Something that's kind of fun about that as well is if you do equip things like Muscle Band or Powerful Energy, while those don't make you do more damage to the bench Pokemon, they do make you do more damage to the active Pokemon. So it can start being a pretty solid threat hitting the active if you do put things like that on there. But for now, Dragon player is going. They use a level ball. Probably going to find something like their Gibble or maybe Tatsuguri if their build runs that. Those would be 2 very good targets for them to grab. Looks like they are looking through all their Dragon Pokemon. It does look like they've got pretty much all of the options that they would want in their deck. So can either grab Gibble or Tatsuguri would be the 2 choices that they could get. Ultimately, it's going to depend on what the rest of their hand is, and they don't have punch-outs going on in their hand. So again, probably going to see that Gibble or Tatsuguri. Might even not be a bad idea to get the Tatsuguri just because there's not very many strong supporters in hand. There's only that teammates, and your opponent is playing a spread deck is not going to take KOs very quickly typically. So the teammates is not going to be very helpful probably for quite a while. U-turn board does go down on Dratini. Looks like we'll be able to retreat and use that Ascension. Ascension a great way, especially if your opponent is going a little bit slowly, to get into that Gabite when you don't already have it. That very powerful Dragon Call ability is just played in every Dragon deck. It's just too good not to. Stage 1 that can then go search out any Dragon Pokemon from the deck is just an incredible ability. Especially since got Garchomp with Sonic Slip is so powerful as well. Gives you not only a great setup Pokemon, but a very good attacker once you are done setting up. This Gabite is going to enable our Dragon player to probably find Dragonair next turn, so they can quickly get into that fast call. That might be one reason why they don't feel like they need the Tatsuguri. I believe they did pass for turn. So N going down for our Colorless player. They didn't have too much going on in their own hand either, so they need to refresh both of them. This is really probably working out for both of our players pretty well. Dragon had already done pretty much everything they would want to from the hand that they had. And again, obviously, Colorless doesn't think that they've got a very good hand, so they want a new 6-2. Colorless is going to want to go ahead and continue setting up its board. Neither player having the strongest starts. though our dragon player is definitely in the slightly better position having that Gabite already in play. Though if our colorless player can find something like their Bibarel this turn to start getting their draw support going, they can easily retreat this turn with their U-turn board and start hitting with Spinda, so they do have their attacker already lined up. Battle VIP Pass just one turn too late, unfortunately, but they do get that Iron Jungulus and a Nest Ball. So Nest Ball going to let them find another one of their Pokemon. My guess is most likely that's Squovent, maybe the Rufflet, depending on if they want to start setting up that evolution line. I actually think Squovent might be prized, though I did see a Rangaroo, so a Rangaroo could be another choice to go with as well. Do need to get those powerful draw supporters set up with Colorless sooner rather than later. They can just help you really churn through the deck, find the pieces that you need. When you don't have them set up, Colorless can kind of struggle a little bit. Player, again, just looking through all the options before they make a decision, does look like they're opting for that Rangaroo with the Instruct ability. Instruct allows you to draw cards until you've got 3 cards in your hand. So basically, you got 1 card, you can draw 2 with it. You've got 2 cards, you can draw 1. If you have 3, obviously you cannot draw because it's just draw up until you've got 3. But if you can clear out your hand of any cards that you don't need and use various discard effects like Ultra Ball, Guzma, and Hala, those can all help limit your hand size so that you can use that Instruct. And then if you've got Bibarel in play as well, then you can use both of those abilities, drop a 3, maybe play a card or 2, and then Bibarel back up to 5. So the Iron Jungulus does go down, energy goes down on it. Does require 3 colorless energy for that first attack, which is the main one you're going to be using this deck. Again, it's 50 damage to 3 targets that already have damage counters on them. Counter gain also going down. Wanted to go ahead and draw 1 more card, does find an Iona. We'll give them a way to refresh their hand again next turn. Retreat and then Spinda, putting 10 damage on that Dratini and that Gabite. So again, that Iron Jungulus already a target for our colorless player once it's got 3 energy on it. Really, both of those Pokemon a little bit vulnerable now, 80 HP and 70 on them respectively. So 50 is almost KOing both of them. Luckily for our Dragon player, they do have Stormy Mountain and of course the Dragon Call, so if they wanted to evolve into Garchomp this turn, they could. For them, they likely want to stall out for at least 1 more turn to get 1 more use out of Dragon Call besides just this turn and the last turn. Stormy Mountain probably going to find one of their attackers. Drampa would be a pretty good choice in this matchup. Drampa's Berserk ability lets it do 70 more damage when any of your bench Pokemon have damage on them. At the moment, all of your Pokemon are going to have damage counters on them. So again, perfect kind of counter to these spread style decks. I'd say spread decks in general kind of have a little bit of a weaker matchup going into Dragon, just because they do enable that Drampa really, really well. They want to spread damage counters around, and they're not going to take those KOs very quickly. So Drampa can just hit for 2 energies over and over again for 160. Nest Ball also going down, so our Dragon player looks like they got a lot of great stuff from that in that our colorless player played last turn. Regidrago joining the benched Pokemon. Dragon's Horde allowing Dragon to draw until they've got 4 cards in hand once per turn, though that Pokemon does have to be in the active. Not quite as strong as something like that Rangaroo or that Bibarel, but still a great card for Dragon, helping you up that consistency a little bit and find pieces that you need. Can also be used as an attacker in a pinch. Does cost 3 energy to power it up, but Giant Fangs does do 160 damage. Looks like our player is now using Dragon's Call, debating on that Dragonite, so they might already have the Dragonair in hand, or Rare Candy. If they had Rare Candy in hand, they would be set up very well right now. See what happens after they start shuffling, but again, Fast Call with Dragonite will let them find any supporter they want every single turn. This end might be coming back to bite Colorless, as it again does seem like they gave Dragon just about everything they could have wanted this turn. Lots of good setup in that Nest Ball and that Stormy Mountain, and then Gabite obviously enabling them to find more dragons. If Rare Candy does go down and go into that Dragonite, our colorless player might be in a little bit of trouble. So Town Map doesn't quite have the Rare Candy yet, or they might just be stalling a little bit. Okay, no, so they don't have the Rare Candy in hand, but they do have Dragonair, so they're going to be able to evolve Dratini this turn. Then Assuming our player doesn't decide to play Iono next turn, they will be able to just use Dragonite. So it does use that Field Blower to get rid of their own U-turn board, which goes back to the hand, as well as counter gain. So again, U-turn board, whenever it's discarded from play, it does just go back to your hand. So it's a good way to kind of reset where that's going to go. Might put it on the Gabite and then retreat with it this turn. Really kind of depends if they want to use that Dragon's Horn or not. They do go ahead and attach an energy, so Gabite could attack if they wanted to. It will have to contend with a confusion, and it will only do 20 damage, so probably not worth the risk. Did not see Garchomp in their hand, so they're not planning to evolve, likely just setting this up as an attacker for later on. Ultimately does pass. Colorless player draws for turn again. They do have that Iono to get rid of the Dragonite, but our Dragon player can just get it right back with Gabite next turn, so that doesn't really do them any favors. I believe Crispin is the other card that I saw in hand. Crispin is a great supporter that just came out recently. Allows you to find 2 energies from your deck. One of them has to be attached to one of your Pokemon, and then the other one goes to hand. So great energy acceleration as well as a way to find another energy. Lots of GLC decks these days running that card just because it's, again, such a great supporter to be able to power up something. Not too many options here for our colorless player. Looks like they're debating if they want to play any cards first and maybe use a Rangaroo before they use something like Iono. Does look like ultimately doing Iono. This will at least force our Dragon player to reuse that Dragon Call just to go get the Dragonite. That does mean they are getting one less Dragon next turn. Otherwise, they could have potentially done something like grab that Dragon instead. So why not ideal? At least does force that player to do a little bit more work to get that Dragonite going. Still not a lot of great cards for our colorless player. They do have their Professor's Letter to be able to find some energies that will allow them to continue to power up this Iron Jugulus. Do have a couple more basic energy in the deck, so they're able to grab those. Other than that, I believe I saw Marnie, so they've got another way to shuffle their opponent's hand. Though again, after this turn, they're going to be able to find every support they want every turn, so it might not be too helpful. Raihan also there for our colorless player. That could be a very powerful card for next turn. Would allow to get the 3rd energy on that Iron Jungulus, potentially. Ultra Ball actually getting rid of those energies to get the Buy Barrel. So our colorless player now does have a lot of these strong supporters, or support Pokemon in play. Instruct to draw up to 3 cards once per turn, and Buy Barrel to draw up to 5 cards once per turn. I believe our colorless player still has about 4 cards in hand, so they're not getting too much value from the Bibarel unless they can play a couple more cards. See what else they decide to do now that they finish shuffling. They do have, again, just looks like 3 supporters and an energy. So this energy likely going to go down in the Iron Jungulus. And then that way next turn you could potentially use Raihan, assuming your opponent does take a KO. Looks like our player is just debating if they want to put this energy on and where they might want to put it. Opting for the Rangaroo. Does look like they were just doing that to maybe draw some cards. Potentially we're just worried about maybe that thing getting bossed up later on and having to need 2 energies to retreat it. Finds an Evolution Incense and a Capture Energy. Evolution Incense, not really helpful right here since they already used that Ultra Ball to find their only evolution Pokemon in play. Spenda just using its attack to put more damage counters on the opponent. Like I was saying earlier, Drampa was already enabled before, but it's even more enabled now. So Evolution Incense, going to be able to just find that Dragonite back. Like we'll use Dragon Call to potentially find that Garchomp. Evolving into Garchomp will clear that status condition, so we'll no longer be confused and we'll be able to use that attack. Sonic Slip would also be enabled, protecting it for a turn from damage and the effects of attacks. Might not be the way that our Dragon player wants to go, though I do believe I just saw them grab it. So yeah, they do have Garchomp and the Dragonite in hand, so Dragon's Call has been used. Dragonite going down, has Fast Call. Going to be able to find whatever supporter they want this turn. Lots of good options to go with. Looks like they're debating potentially Avery, though at the moment that won't limit their opponent's bench. Lysander, another good choice. Could be a way to go ahead and take out that Iron Jungulus, which is probably one of the biggest threats at the moment. Alternatively, could boss up something like the Bibarrel to limit their opponent's draw potential. It's usually a good way to be able to attack colorless players is target down their support Pokemon on the bench. While they do have strong attackers, those attackers are enabled by the fact that they've just drawn so many cards per turn with things like a Rangaroo and Bibarrel. It's one of the reasons why the spread colorless deck is a little bit weaker as a type. It doesn't have really powerful attackers like the Snorlax, which can just immediately take out threats. Our colorless player is just going to have to continue to deal with that Dragonite for at least a few more turns, as they don't really have a way to easily KO it. It's really kind of the same with all the Pokemon that I play. Ultimately does use that Stormy Mount to grab that Dradagon as well. Our Dragon player has basically every Pokemon they could possibly want in play. Do need to start getting some energies down, but they haven't played an energy for turn. So they can go ahead and start powering up something like that Drampa or maybe the Dradagon, depending on which one they want. Is going to evolve into that Garchomp, so no longer confused. Really the only way to get rid of something like confusion is to do something like an evolution, use an effect to clear it, like an item card or a supporter card. Does put down that Hex Maniac, so no more abilities. It takes the KO, Spinda goes down, a couple cards get discarded, looks like it was an Applin and Team Evolution. So not too big of a loss for our Dragon player. Is able to grab one of those cards from the prizes. Thankfully then, it's the exact card that they want since they do have those face up because of Town Map. Talking about their prizes real quick. Do have the Night Stretcher and Rescue Stretcher in there, but honestly the pricing is not too bad for our Dragon player. Raihan going down, so energy getting attached to that Iron Jungulus. Going to be able to also find a card from the deck. Raihan's such a great way to be able to get back into a game. Not only is it accelerating energy, but then it helps you find another piece of the puzzle. So whatever problem that you're currently running into, you can search the deck and hopefully find that. Looks like our player is debating that Hisuian Heavy Ball. My guess is they are running Squovin. Squovin's probably just trapped in the prizes. So knowing that our colorless player does not have the strongest hand, that might be why they want to go ahead and opt for that Hisuian Heavy Ball. Squovin's Nest adaptability lets you shuffle your hand and put it on the bottom of your deck, and then you draw one card. So it's a perfect way to enable both the Bibarrel and the Rangaroo to get maximum value out of those each turn. It's one of the reasons why Colorless is just such a powerful type in general. One problem for our colorless player is right now, if this Iron Jungulus does go down this next turn, which at the moment it very easily will due to that Garchomp capture energy being played. Going to be able to find another basic from the deck because of that. So this is helping to solve one of the problems I was just talking about. They didn't have any backup attackers, but now that the Rufflet's down, does give them potentially the ability to find that Bravery on a following turn to be able to evolve and have that backup attacker. Again, it is able to attack for free and hit anything, I believe, for 50 damage, maybe 30 damage to targets that already have damage counters on them. So great way to finish things off after you've already set them up a little bit with that Spinda. Going to be able to see an attack from this Iron Jungulus this turn, but first doing that Hisuian Heavy Ball. We'll see if that Squovin is prized. Looks like it was, so that's going to be able to join the rest of the crew on the bench. Our Dragon player, thankfully for them, they do have Fast Claw to be able to target down something like that Squovin next turn if they are really feeling threatened. The one downside of doing that now is since the Iron Jungulus is online and is going to be doing 50 damage to everything, again, that has damage counters, it is a very big threat. Garchomp does have Sonic Slip enabled, so it is protected. Hex Maniac also, just as a reminder, was in play. That's why our colorless player didn't use any of their abilities that turn. So 50 damage going down on all of those bench Pokemon, but again, Garchomp is immune due to Static Slip or Sonic Slip during that last turn. On upcoming turns, it can now be attacked, so it is vulnerable. But that 20 damage on it, not increasing for the moment. Colorless Tenacity, another great card that came out recently for Dragon. Lets you find a stadium card as well as an energy. So you can grab that powerful dragon energy, which it looks like is what our dragon player wants to grab. Also grab the Gapejaw Bog. That way, any Pokemon that come down into play will take 20 damage. Again, those do have to be played from your hand, so something like Nest Ball will get around Gapejaw Bog. Both players largely have their boards fully set up, so that may not be the most helpful, but it is at least something you probably want to thin out the deck, maybe some discard fodder. Dragon looking very strong, knowing they've got that double dragon energy in their hand. They can either power up that Dradagon or that Drampa. Drampa almost certainly the better choice in this matchup, just because Dradagon uses Revenge, which is only doing full damage if your opponent took a KO last turn. Your colorless player is not going to take a KO again anytime soon, just because it's trying to set up multiple KOs at once with that spread damage. So Berserk going to be a much better choice potentially. Same time, that Drampa does have a lot of damage on it already, so you might only get 1 or 2 uses at most out of it before it goes down. Double Dragon Energy does go down on Drampa. Retreating with that Garchomp, and up goes the Drampa. Doesn't want to lose any more cards from the milling effect of that Garchomp's attack. Hazard use supporter for turn, so can't use that Lysander that they've got. Drampa's Berserk does take out that Jungulus. Up guns the Rufflet. Colorless player drawing for turn. Finds that Bunnelby. Might enable some additional options for them. Again, that thing can attack multiple times. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but if it manages to take a KO, again, it can attack again. Kind of one of those interesting cards. It's got kind of, I believe those are called ancient powers on them that really can't be turned off by anything. Likely what our colorless player is wanting to do with that Bunnelby is, I believe I saw TM Blindside in their deck. Again, that Bunnelby can use the attack that it's got on it, which includes those TMs. So Blindside allows you to do 100 damage to one target on your opponent's bench, and since the team evolution doesn't go, or the Blindside doesn't go away until the end of your turn, you can use it again. So you can potentially do massive damage to 2 targets with that. Hisuian Bravery is evolved thanks to that evolution incense. So now our player can start doing more damage this turn. Looks like our colorless player is debating putting down that bunny alongside the counter energy. They are behind, so that will be enabled, and we'll get 2 of the, I believe, 3 energy that you need for TM Blindside. Just shuffling up the hand. Does have the ability to use some of those powerful draw supporters. This are, again, not supporters, draw Pokemon that they've got down on the bench. So depending on what they want this turn, they may go ahead and start using that Nest Dash. Not sure if they should open that poor little bunny up to potentially being KO'd, because they know their opponent does have the ability to just grab whatever support they want every turn. Makes everything on their bench vulnerable to a Guzma or a boss's orders. Player is playing mostly with Japanese cards, so player was probably asking, what does that thing do again? Marnie is going down, so going to at least get rid of some of the resources that Dragon had in hand. Their hand size was starting to look rather large, so putting them back down on 4 will hopefully hurt them a little bit. Does find that TM Blindside as well as a de-evolution. De-evolution could also come into play later on. It lets you more easily KO some of those Pokemon. You know, getting to 160 damage with something like that Garchomp or that Dragonite can be a little tricky sometimes, but if you just de-evolve them, you only need to hit much lower thresholds. That Bite only has 80 HP. I believe Dragonair has 100. It's a lot easier to get to. So 30 more damage going down on all of these Pokemon. I believe the... Oh no, Drampa did have 60 on it already. And that should go up to 50. Yeah, for some reason I was still thinking the Garchomp was in the active, so I was like, that's a little bit too much damage. So again, Dragonite is in danger zone if TM Devo is used. But that Regidrago as well as that Drampa are both protected from that since they don't evolve. Avery going down is going to have to discard one card. Rangaroo, definitely a good choice here. This does potentially open them up to just be KO'd with something like a boss's orders. If they can get rid of that Rangaroo and that Bibarel in one turn, that will put our Dragon player in a very good spot to limit the resources for our colorless player. Alternatively, they might just be feeling too threatened by this bravery. A lot of their Pokemon are starting to get very low on HP. If one more Eerie Cry is able to go off because they don't KO it, then it won't quite... It would actually KO the Drampa. It would not quite KO the Regidrago. Garchomp would be at risk of being TM Devo'd, and so would Dragonite. Is using that Arven, so going to be able to find a tool card and an item card. Might find something to buff up the HP, like Fighting Fury Belt, to be able to put on this Drampa. Again, that would help protect it for at least one more turn, though since the Bravery is going to go down, might not be what they want to choose. U-turn board going down on Garchomp. Makes it a nice pivot Pokemon for when something does eventually get KO'd. It's one of the interesting things about matchups like this. Does look like Dragon's in a pretty dominant position, and they are definitely looking pretty strong. They already have 3 prizes taken. Do pick up that Palpat as well. But spread decks don't really care about that too much. You know, it's not over for them until it's absolutely over. They're looking to take 3, 4, maybe 5 or even 6 KOs in one turn. Board state's not set up to be able to take that many, but we are looking at potentially 2 or even 3 prizes being taken very soon for our colorless player. They're going to be able to get back into this game pretty quickly. They do still have that Squovent and that Bibarel to help them continue to draw cards. Does find a counter catcher as well, so they could do something like stall a little bit with that Dradagon. Maybe bring that up or bring the Regidrago up. I think one problem they've got right now is they don't have energy, though they do have Clara to find those from the discard. Can also get back some of their Pokemon. Might go for that Bravery line or could go opt for Rangaroo. The Iron Jungulus could be a good choice as well. Lots of good choices with this Clara for our Dragon or our colorless player. It is a choose one or both, so you get the option of 2 energies and 2 Pokemon if you want, or you can just grab 1 energy, 1 Pokemon. Really any combination of those that you want. Always one of the nice things about something saying up to, gives you lots of options. Options are always good in card games. Does look like our player's debating re-getting that Rufflet line. They do need to get another attacker back. Might be one of the easiest things for them to set up. Depending on what our player wants to do, they can potentially take 2 KOs this turn. Because they do have the TM Blindside in their hand. This is always such a great play to see. Again, that Blindside for 3 energies, you can do 100 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. And since this bunny can attack twice in a turn, counter catcher going up. So now we're doing the stall play. Gonna be able to keep this Regidrago in the active. This is likely not gonna be what they're gonna target down with this Blindside. Might go ahead and take out that Drampa and the Dragonite. Alternatively, they might put some damage on the Dradagon. Definitely think it would be a mistake one way or another if they do not take out this Dragonite. You need to stop your opponent from getting every supporter they want every turn. But for now, they're using Nesh Dash. Finds a Mela, which could be very helpful next turn. Then Industrious Incisors, helping them draw back up to a full hand. Not the strongest draws, but they do get that field blower, able to get their own U-turn board back into their hand and put that down on the Squovent. Both players kind of, funnily enough, using their own field blowers to get rid of their own U-turn boards. Ultimately does... That Dragonite, I thought, only had 50 damage on it. I don't believe that should have been KO'd there. Hopefully our players will recognize that. Looks like, yeah, the player did not take a second prize. I think that might have just been a mistake on our Dragons player fault, because Colorless only took one prize. I believe if I'm thinking about it a little bit more, I do remember that they do catch this pretty quickly before it really becomes a problem. We're able to reverse this. But again, thankfully, our Colorless player did not take another prize. This was not a mistake on their part. Though, if it did go on for a while, you can actually get in a situation where you can get penalized for not alerting your opponent to a mistake that they made. But again, this will get fixed very shortly for our players. Garchomp, again, should have 10 damage left on it. So it will come back. I think the players are finally catching it, and he's like, wait a second, where did that Garchomp go? Should only have 150 on it. It's got 10 HP left. So they're able to fix that. U-turn board will hopefully go back down and on as well. I don't quite remember if they're able to fix that part of it as well. And I think he might have been pointing out, yep, there's a U-turn board, everything fixed. Again, didn't ultimately cause any problems, able to find that out before anything happens. And again, think of our Colorless player, knew they shouldn't have gotten that KO, so they didn't take 2 prizes. Getting back into the game, players were disrupted a little bit by being like, whoa, we gotta fix this. But game is going to continue. Arvin going down. So gonna find, again, that tool card and that item card. Guessing they got that back with their pal pad. I thought they'd played that last turn, unless I'm completely losing it. Opting for escape rope will be a way to get this Regidrago out of the active. We'll be able to attack with Drampa this turn. Fortunately for our Colorless player, they don't have a great target to put up. We either have to choose to KO one of their powerful draw Pokemon or sacrifice their only backup attacker that they've got. And since this bunny has already used that TM Blindside, unless our Colorless player has a way to recover it, then they don't really have an attacker for this next turn. Garchomp going up. Almost certainly has the energy they need in hand. Probably going to attach something like a unit energy, or unit energy going down on the Dradagon. So seems like they've already played a supported this turn. I'm not sure how they're expecting to get another energy on Garchomp to actually attack. Well, I guess that unit energy actually doesn't give fighting energy, so it seems like they just didn't have a way to be able to power up one of their Pokemon this turn. Wonder if this was a mistake by our Dragon player, if they just didn't realize they didn't have the energy, or if they've got another way to accelerate. Otherwise, they likely should have just gone up with the Drampa. That would have enabled them to still get KO this turn. Palpad going down, using that getting that Hex Maniac and the Arvin back. So let's see if our Dragon player does have a way to accelerate another energy. I guess actually, what am I talking about? They can just retreat for turn. Did forget they didn't retreat just a second ago. That was from the escape rope. So they can use their U-turn board, which is reducing the retreat cost by 1 on that Garchomp to go into that Drampa. Be able to take KO this turn on this Rufflet. We'll put our Colorless player in a very rough spot. They're not going to have an easy way to be able to power up another attacker. At least with what they've got in hand. They do have the option for that Nest Dash plus the Industrious Incisors to hopefully find some other cards. Do retreat for turn. Up comes Drampa. Going to put our Dragon player down to just 2 prizes remaining. They take the KO, grab that Night Stretcher. Up comes Squovent. Does just act as a free retreat since it's got that U-turn board attached. Really, this entire hand is just not looking great. They might throw it away with Nest Dash and hopefully draw some better cards. They need to find a way to get an attacker back from the discard. They have used Clara, but I don't think they've used something like Rescue Stretcher or Night Stretcher yet. So they could dig for those. That would allow them to get something like Spinda back, which can potentially stall this Drampa a little bit, as well as take a KO on that Garchomp. Since it does need just the one energy, it might be the best choice for them here. Are using that nest dash, so I'm going to draw one card. It's a Ditto, that's going to go down on the bench. This lets you copy a basic Pokemon's attack that's in your discard. So great Pokemon actually for them here. They don't need to find that Spinda or some other attacker now. If they can just get an energy on it. Though it doesn't look like they drew an energy. Oh, really rough for our colorless player. They found the rescue stretchers, so they can grab one of their other Pokemon back if they want to. But again, they don't have a way to actually get an energy on this turn. Or they do have Guzman Ha. They have not played a supporter yet this turn, so they could discard 2 cards, go find a special energy from their deck. Ooh, using that recycle to get that blindside back in. I didn't even realize there was a card that they were playing. So now that that blindside is back in the deck, they potentially use this bunny one more time later on. Ultimately going to opt for this Guzman Hala, just deciding which resources they want to get rid of. They honestly really do need to start taking more KOs this turn. This is going to enable the bunny to be able to maybe take out both the Drampa and the Garchomp. Or can blindside only hit actives? I'm not 100% sure. I think the reason this decision is so difficult is they just have such great resources in their hand. They don't want to discard any of those cards. They want their Floatstone. They want their Escape Rope. Escape Rope won't allow them to get this Drampa out of the active, though their opponent will likely just go up with that Garchomp. So does use the Guzman Hala. What are they going to choose to discard here? Not sure what card is left in their hand. Does opt for the Escape Rope and the Floatstone. Going to be able to find a Stadium, Tool card, and Special Energy. So going to be able to do that attack this turn. Artisan, potentially the last Stadium in the deck, so probably just want to grab that for deck thinning. Not really seeing too many tools left either. But the all-important blindside is still there. Just comes down to which energy does our opponent or our colorless player want to grab. So they're debating that twin energy. We'll let them start powering up one of their other Pokemon. Looks like they ultimately are potentially not opting for that Artisan. There's not really any basic Pokemon that they want to still get. I doubt they want to put that down because they don't want to give their opponent the ability to find some basics. They do opt for it. I do think that's the correct play. At least start thinning down your deck a little bit. You can always just put it back to the bottom of the deck with your Nest Dash. So this twin energy likely going to go down on the Ditto since the bunny is already powered up and can use that blindside again. That will get Ditto a little bit closer to just using the attack from that Jungulus. So Technical Machine blindside going down. Be able to see which 2 targets they want to potentially take out this turn. Twin energy is going down on Ditto. This is what I was talking about before. You can never count out the spread decks. Once they finally start taking KOs, they start taking them real fast. It takes them a while to get there, but they're very scary once they've spread things around. So blindside, I believe, is being activated. Is choosing, well, maybe choosing Garchomp. Not totally sure. Debating on that Regidrago. Regidrago and Drampa. Really curious why they didn't go for the Garchomp. Guess they figure it just has 10 HP left. Very easy to target to be able to take out. But does take 2 prizes. What is now 3 for our Colorless versus 2 for our Dragon player. Those last 2 prizes really are not too big a deal for our Dragon player. Probably doesn't care too much about that Professor Sycamore or that Flapple at this point. Dragon taking account of all the resources that have been used by Colorless. They're wanting to see what options they have as attackers for that Ditto. It's like Spinda and Jungulus, taking note of both of those. Colorless player does have all of the resources they need in hand to be able to attack next turn. We'll see if our Dragon player does have an energy to power up this Garchomp and take a KO. Question is, do they have both Oh, they do have a way to potentially get the energy, grabbing that Applin instead with the Night Stretcher. Do they have... Looks like they're opting for the Dradagon, so going to retreat. Don't have a way to power up Garchomp this turn. This is where things might start getting a little bit difficult for our colorless player. Since there's not already damage counters down on the Dradagon or the Applin, they can't use something like the Jungulus to KO. Does retreat, going to be able to use Revenge since the KO was taken last turn. With the card left in hand, it doesn't look like they've got an option to hit something else. They're going to have to finally take out this bunny. Gapejaw Bog going down. If our Dragon player took careful account of the resources that were in the discard, they know that their opponent's probably going to go up with the Ditto to attack at some point during this turn. Like you can use that Spinda to take out Garchomp. Then that will set up both the Dradagon and the Applin with some damage counters on them. Might be hoping to use the Flapple in an upcoming turn to KO something. This was a good choice by our Dragon player. They're making sure that they've got attackers no matter what happens this next turn. Right now, our colorless player is in a very difficult spot. They do have the ability to use something like that Spinda to take a KO, but with the Dradagon at full HP and the Applin at full HP, those cannot be taken out by anything. Even with confusion from the Spinda, you can still just retreat with the Dradagon, go up with the Flapple. So our colorless player smartly grabbing that Iono with that versatility, going to be able to put their opponent down to just one card in hand. Probably their best path to victory here. They need to make sure that they can't get that Flapple back in the active and attack with it. So they can limit them to just one card. They will limit their options and hopefully keep them from being able to take that final prize. It would rely on a coin flip if that's the pathway that they're thinking about going, but I don't know what other way they get to victory. So using that Rescue Stretcher before they use Iono gets that Oranguru back. Going to put themselves down to just 3 cards in hand versus 1 card for their opponent. And this was probably the best option that our colorless player had to not lose next turn. So Nest Dash, I guess that was Nest Dash right after that Iono. Not a helpful card at all. It does use Oranguru. Again, it doesn't find any more cards. So it uses Industrious Incisors to grab 2 more. Again, didn't find anything too helpful, so just going to go up. And likely to use that Spinda, so Dizzying Spin, 10 damage to everything. Garchomp will be KO'd. 10 damage on the Dradagon and is confused. So unless our Dragon player can find the Flapple, they don't have the easy path to a KO this turn. They're going to have to go through that confusion. If they do get a heads, they win the game. If they get tails, they might lose. Honestly, we'll see though. Did find the Raihan. Gonna be able to go get that Flapple. Yep, there it is. GG. Great game. Unfortunately for our colorless player, Iono'd right into the card that our player needed, but well played from both of them.